And
Very
you
well,
can
very
see my
audible.
screen.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay, just 1 second. Okay, namaste everyone. Welcome to lecture 11 um, of the series today. Yeah, so we'll start off with paying respects to our good teachers, our gurus, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. We do our Shanti mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make effort for the capacity for knowledge to take place. May what we studied by us it be brilliantly clear. Let us not have any misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace. So the agenda for today, he will go over, continue going over some of the texts and will concentrate on the people behind the text. A quick recap of the last lecture, where we really focused on looking at all the evidences which pointed towards the antiquity of Bharatiya astronomy. And that is what was the main intent of the lecture last time, was trying to convey to you how old the whole astronomical observations, documentation, and so on is there within our history. So we talked about this. Many seals in Mohenjo-daro have been found which actually point to astronomical phenomena. We focused on one particular seal. It is also called the Prajapati Brahma, where there was depiction of the four directions based on the four faces of Brahma, and the animals and around it pointing towards constellations and equinoxes and solstices, which all pointed to around 3000 BCE for that particular event to occur. We also talked a lot about the different texts which mention the different astronomical phenomena. We talked about Rig Veda, one of the texts, and which talked about astronomical phenomena quite a bit, and it talked about the roundness of the earth, the suspension of the earth in space, the solar year, how many days, and we also touched upon Adhik Masa, the intercalary month. We talked about the motion of the sun in towards north, towards the south, the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. We talked about the motion of the moon, we talked about Rig Veda, talking about the motion of the moon and the definition of the nakshatra. In this place, in this particular verse, it talks about nakshatra and the moon being placed among the stars. We continued to talk about different aspects and from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the very famous Yagnavalka and Gargi dialogue, and where Gargi I mean, if you go through the entire dialogue, there are so many instances of not only astronomy but also philosophy and many aspects that Gargi questions Yajnavalkya, and Yajnavalkya gives such clear answers. He talks about, from an astronomical point of view, talks about the composition of this space, talks about an immutable force. He calls it Aksharasya Prashasane, the immutable governance almost, Prashasane, which obviously very much points to gravity. And he talks about the fact that this Prashasan actually holds the many uh, planets and in position. He talks about this immutable force being responsible for maintaining the calendar. Talks about this immutable force uh, 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 deciding the flow of the rivers. And then we also talked about the eclipse noted, the total solar eclipse that was noted by Rishi Atri in the Rigveda times, and this was actually dated as being in the era of between 4200 BCE to 3600 BCE. So all this was again pointing towards the antiquity of not only observations but explanations of different aspects of astronomy, and included the comets. We talked about the roots of this observational mentions, and we will go forward on that. And one of the Siddhanta, or what is also now known as the Samhita, there are many of them which are almost lost, not very much available right now. But one of them, one of the famous ones that is mentioned is Parashara, and so the question then is, who was Parashara? And again, in the traditional genealogical lineage or lineage, Parashara is in the lineage of one of the Saptarishis, Vashishta. Vashishta's son is Shakti. Shakti's son is Parashara, and Parashara is or his son from Satyavati was Vyasa, and because Vyasa was born on an island, is also known as Dvaipana, or Dvipa is island, so Dvaipana, and of different or a darker skin, Dvaipana Krishna Vyasa. So that is the lineage of Parashara. Anyone can actually talk about or identify this particular lake? So this
Kailash,
particular, yeah, go ahead, Pranay.
Kailash Mansarovar?
No,
No.
this actually is Lake Parashar in which is in Himachal Pradesh, and very close
Oh,
to Mandi. Uh, so one aspect of the lake is now this is the lake where again the story is Parashara actually meditated on its banks, and there is a mysterious island present in the lake, and if you look at the dimensional measurements of this lake, the water is 79%, and the lake is 20. Sorry, the island is 21%. So that actually very much represents what is there on Earth. That that is the amount of water that is there on the Earth, and the land mass that is on the Earth. So just one tidbit about the lake. So Parashara has been mentioned by one documented astronomer, Varamahira. We'll talk about Varamahira later on. But he talks about Parashara being one of the ancient astronomers. And in he has been credited with the one of the texts which is which again is mostly lost, but whatever exists is Parashara Samhita. So along with the other astronomers he talks about is Garga, Asita, and Devala. And so many of these texts in PS, Parashara Samhita, are in a different form of Sanskrit, which actually corresponds to the Vedic style of Sanskrit. And again, this is probably the more traditional version. Some of the modern texts now have dated him as existing in that period, or between 1150 and 1370 BCE. So, and which is the same as Vedanga's Jyotisha, as the same period as Lagada in Vedanga Jyotisha. So that is the modern scholarly interpretation of his time period. He has done in his Samhita, has actually talked about many of the things, and the one of the reasons, of course, he's talked about the order of the seasons during his time. He talked about the cold season is when the sun transits from the beginning of the Nishta. So from that, it's been assigned as this time period for his existence. He did many interesting things in his existing or surviving Parashara Samhita that we can gather. He talked about the transit of Jupiter. So he said Jupiter travels 2.5 nakshatras in a year, and that is what leads to good crops. So, and the motion is basically aligned to the 12-year sidereal cycle, which is 2.25 divided by 27 nakshatra times 360 is 30 degrees, and 360 divided by 30 is 12 years. So that is the sidereal cycle of Jupiter. He also talked about Venus and the Shukratar, and he talked about the days that Venus is visible and from where it rises. So he talks about 55, 60, 75, 81, 90 days respectively. That is so all he talked about the different directions that Venus rises in the sky, and it sets in the west after it rises in the east, and then rising in the east, it travels 21 stars, which is nakshatra, in 9 months. and rising in the west, it travels 19 stars in 8 months. So based on all um, this summation, we can say that according to Parashara, the Venus cycle is 591 days. So now we know that the average synodic period of Venus is 584 days. So, and again, the visibility of the planet, it does depend on many factors. So therefore, Parashara has been remarkably accurate in talking about the visibility of Venus and the direction where it comes from. So we did talk a little bit about Lagada in our last class, but we know Lagada or Acharya Lagada Muni as the primary author of Vedanga Jyotisham. So there are no real personal biographical details that we can find on Acharya Lagada Muni, but we have some verses that are actually existing, and so there are some verses in Rig Veda and some verses in Yajur Veda, and together it is all in Vedanga Jyotisham. So he talks about different yugas, the 5-year yuga cycle, the 27 nakshatras. He talks about also, we can accurately date him depending on his description of the winter solstice. He also talked about the intercalary month and the day length ratio for us for the latitude. So based on that, we can also say where he was actually situated. So then the question is, was Parashara a contemporary of Lagada? And from what we can see, they are within that couple of 100 years, and in the what is known as the pre-Siddhantic or early Samhita astronomy phase. So, and then both of them, the reason we can say they are similar time periods is because of the description of the winter solstice in the Nishta. So that is what we can say is pointing towards them actually existing in the same time period. So there are also a few different other astronomers in the similar time period that we can call as being the contemporaries of Lagada or Lagada and Parashara, and these are the astronomers that we still have some evidences and some texts which are either existing or have been quoted or cited by later astronomers like Varaha Mihra. And so these are Vruddha Garga, Asita and Devala and Prajapati, and depending on different citations, we know that they have contributed in different areas. So, for example, Ashita and Devala have been cited by Varamihira for their observation of comets. So one difference, of course, is in the Samhita and Siddhanta. So Samhita is what we actually talk about being before the Siddhanta period. So we say the Samhita is in the period of 1500 to 800 BCE, and that was more observational, oriented towards calendars for harvesting seasons and rituals and so on. We have some surviving samhitas. The Siddhantas are more mathematical in their style, more predictive. They have very clear epicyclic models. We'll show some evidences of that, and they are existing as well. One of the things with the existence of evidences or existence of these documents and texts is the fact that many of the earlier in the time period 1500 or even earlier is the fact that they were either orally transmitted or they were written um, on palm leaves and or some kind of organic leaf kind of structure, which has clearly a very limited time period of existence. So therefore it's very difficult to actually find any evidence of existence. However, the ones that exist that are later have been passed on a little bit more in a written format and have been copied from ages. So I see there is one question. Yeah, definitely, Ram. I think we will definitely share these slides.
Yeah, these are really good to kind of share with the kids. That's why.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So then comes the late Siddhantic or class, what is known as the Siddhantic era. So this, I think, Aryabhatta and Varamira are more of the early Siddhantic eras, and this is more of the classical Siddhantic era, and from the 1800s, those are more of the late Siddhantic era. And Madhu talked about these astronomers. There are a number of these astronomers that we have. We have Aryabhatta. We'll talk about his contributions as well. Then we have so many different astronomers that we have evidences and documented for. I mean, these are obviously only some of them, or very few of them, because this was a very vibrant tradition that existed, the vibrant tradition of looking at the skies, making observations, and actually documenting them, debating them, talking to. So you had these almost like conferences between different academicians of those times that existed. So we'll talk about only a few of them. One thing I just wanted to talk about is the fact that these traditions, and again, Madhu talked about that as well, is that these traditions existed from, or these astronomers actually existed in different parts of India. So this is again expounded in this text, but they came from so many different parts of India. It was a pan-Indian tradition, so it was not confined to one area of India alone. So again, what I'll do is I'll go over some of the astronomers. I will not be able to cover all of them, but I'll give you some taste of what these astronomers, Aryabhatta, Varamihira, Bhaskara, Brahmagupta, and Bhaskara 2, 1 and 2 actually contributed in different areas. So the first one, Aryabhatta. So he's clearly he's a genius personality. I mean, he's probably one of the most famous ones that we know. There are so many more that we don't know, but at least we do know about Aryabhatta. And it is fortunate that we have learned about him even when in the years that the Western narrative dominated. But now there is a resurgence of all these different names, so they'll become a little bit more familiar. But Aryabhatta was born in likely in 476 CE in Kusumapura, which is now Patna. And actually, Kusumapura was the Gupta name for Patna. Before it was called Kusumapura, it was called Patliputra in the Maurya times. And that changed to Kusumapura, and now it is called Patna. So this era is also known as the golden age of the Gupta Empire. He actually wrote his famous text Aryabhatiya at the age of 23. And he actually propounded many different theorems, and it was actually transmitted to the Islamic civilization, and Al-Biruni had picked it up, and it is also that later on was also known as the Islamic Golden Age. So Aryabhatiya was written when, like I said, when Aryabhatta himself was only 23. It was a 121 verse, basically a masterpiece. It was actually divided into 4 sections: Geetika Pada, Ganita Pada, Kalakriya Pada, and Gola Pada. And they are concise Sanskrit verses. And as you know, each of the Sanskrit verse contains so much information within them. He covered so many different topics. He talked many mathematical theorems. He talked about astronomy, obviously. He actually gave us the trigonometric sine tables. This was quite a contribution. It was propounded in that fashion for the first time. And this was a famous text which was copied all over in the world. So his main discoveries, he talked about the rotation of the Earth on its axis, which leads to the day and night. So that was something which was talked about by Aryabhatta. He actually calculated the circumference. He calculated it to this value, 39,968 kilometers, which is not very different. I think the modern calculation is a little bit over 40,000 kilometers, so it's not very different at all. He explained the eclipses by shadows. So there was a version of so many of the astronomical observations were passed on through stories, and as we'll talk about in later classes. And sometimes the the reason behind the stories was missed. And I think in at some of these points again, some of this years, the reason was missed, and he clearly showed that Rahu and Ketu were not actual beings or demons or whatever. They were actually shadows, and the Rahu and Ketu was just a means of expression, and this was very clearly pointed out by Aryabhatta. He constructed the sign table, looked at the solar year, and many of the epicyclic models of planetary motion. So this is the description of the eclipses. This was the in Golapada verses 36 and 37, where he clearly talks about the shadows. He talks about the fact that Rahu swallows the moon when it's covered by Earth's shadow, Chaya. Uh, and he talks about Rahu swallowing the sun when it's covered by moon shadow. He talks about Chandra and Bhaskara. So yada Chandra Suryasta Chayayam Bhavati Tada Grahanam. Grahanam is eclipse. So when the moon enters the shadow of the sun, an eclipse occurs. So very clear description of the shadows. It also talks about ascending and descending nodes. So the ascending node so this is basically the ascending and descending node because the orbits are placed at an angle of 5 degrees. So the orbit of the moon and the sun are at an angle of 5 degrees, and that is what creates these different nodes when the moon is going up and when it is actually going down, ascending and descending. And he talks about it in the Gita Pada. He talks about the ascending node being the head of Rahu and the descending node is the tail of Ketu. And both nodes move in the opposite direction of the moon. He also calculated the nodes, the timing of the nodes, and he said completes one revolution in 18 years, and the modern value is 18.59 years, so the error was very, very small, if at all. Then he actually calculated very precisely the circumference of the Earth. And how might he have done that without the aid of any of the modern equipment? So what he did was, for example, he looked at 2 points on the same latitude and then calculated the terrestrial distance between the points on the same latitude. And then using shadows, he calculated the time difference, the time that the shadows of the same length, and then he used his sine table to calculate the actual circumference of the Earth, because he clearly mentioned that the diameter of the Earth is 1,050 yojanas, and he went on to calculate the diameter of the sun and the moon and the planets. So all this was based on the use of his sine tables, the trigonometrical sine tables, and the use of shadows. In one of his very famous verses is from the Gola Pada, where he talks about the earth rotating and the stars not rotating, or the sun not rotating. And so this was a very clear statement of the heliocentricity and the rotation of the Earth on its own axis. So he talked. This was the actual verse, and where he says Brahmati Bhugola. So the Earth Bhugola Purvam Paschimam Dushyati Tata. So the sphere of the Earth is round in every way. The sphere of the stars is fixed. Khagola Sthira. The Earth's sphere rotates west to east, and that is why the stars appear to rise in the east and set in the west. And then he gave an analogy where he talked about the boat moving and the shore not moving. So he said, Yatha nosta jalam, yati tata bhukam dramati. Just as a man in a boat sees the trees on the shore moving backward, so do the fixed stars appear to move westward because the earth rotates eastward. So this was very clearly, maybe the knowledge existed for a long time before Aryabhata, but he very clearly um, documented it and explained it again. So this was very nice to see. And what is interesting is that this was done 1,000 years before Galileo and Copernicus, and obviously there was no punishment that Galileo and other people had to undergo from the church. So the next astronomer that we will talk about is Varamihira. He was born in Ujjain in 505 CE. And he was also known as one of the 9 gems in Vikramaditya's court. That is another interesting aspect that continued on through generations and millennia is the faith in a divine being. So looking at science as worship. So there was no real separation between the science and spirituality. He authored a couple of very interesting, very important works. Brihat Samhita was one. Pancha Siddhantika was the other. Now, Pancha Siddhantika was actually a comparison of all the astronomical systems that existed before him. So it was a commentary. And that's where the references that we find to even the ancient astronomers, Parashara and Rudragarga and Lagada and so on, that appear in Panchasiddhantika. And he did quite a few things. So one of his, many of his main discoveries are listed here. He talked about very accurate eclipse predictions. Then he actually codified the nakshatras for calendar and weather. I'll talk about this. This is a very interesting thing. Where he talked about the spherical Earth and the water clinging to the Earth. He talked about planetary perturbations, some of the retrograde motions that are observed from the Earth. And he also talked about the rains and actually um, uh, kind of corresponded the onset of the monsoons to the motion of the stars. So this is another interesting thing. This is about the mention of gravity. So he talked about the Golakar Prithvi, so the sphericity of the Earth, And he talked about jalam na patati. Why doesn't the water fall? And he says that is all because of this gurutva. Uh, and then he says that is again he gives an analogy where he says bindu phare. So he talks about uh, the water does not fall from the earth like a droplet on a fruit, and that is all due to gurutva. Gurutva is the attraction, and so gurutva is clearly gravity. And he talks about the golaka, the earth pulling the objects towards its center. And keep in mind, this is 1,000 years at least before Newton actually talks about gravity. So Gurutva is, the etymology of Gurutva is Guru is heavy. So the heaviness of the earth is what is leading to the attraction. So there was a very clear pointer here towards gravity. He also refined eclipse prediction because he also included into it the parallax correction and the latitude correction. So where you are on the earth, which is very much accounting for the curvature of the earth. So these adjustments he made into the existing prediction of eclipses, but he added parallax and latitude corrections to it, and he was incredibly accurate. Again, he also used the sign tables from Aryabhatta, from Aryabhatiya, to do the refinement. One of his major linkages or discoveries was the actual linkage between the stars and the seasons, or monsoon in particular. And there is a very famous anecdote about the particular a question asked by a king, and that whether after maybe a couple of drought, he had asked Varamahira where will the crops again fail this year, and Varamahira had predicted the Chandra goes into Pushya, and when that occurs, and when Jupiter is in Leo, you will get heavy rain in 70 days. And the rains came, and the king was very grateful. He built an observatory to actually aid the observation of the stars. So Varamihira turned the nakshatras into weather apps. The other name, or the other astronomer that actually also is worthy, more than worthy of mention, is Brahmagupta. He was born in Rajasthan, maybe 100 years after Aryabhatta. Uh, uh, he was a Shaivite. Now, this is in again in contrast to Varamahira, who was a Vaishnavite. So, I mean, I just put this as a means of showing that this was so. I mean, the entire ethos at that time was so liberal. It didn't matter whether you looked at one particular aspect of faith, but the entire science or mathematics was seen and observed as something that was a was a manifestation of the divine. So he was the author of Brahmasput Siddhanta. And this was written in 628 CE. It had different sections in it, 24 chapters, which covered arithmetic, geometry, astronomy. There were some key sections in there, and the section that actually dealt with astronomy is called Gola Dhyaya. He also used zero much more as a number than earlier. So again, another aspect of gravity was noted by Brahmagupta, and he says in the Brahmasputra Siddhanta, in one of the verses is Prutihi khalu sarvam akarshati swabhavat. So everything is attracted by the earth due to its own nature. Tasmat patanti padartha. So everything falls. Tasyam yatha gurutvat. Again uses the word gurutvat. So maybe Gurutva was probably first used as a term by Varamahira, but as you've seen before, people have used different terminologies to describe the attraction force of the earth. So Yagnavalkya used as the immutable force, immutable Prashasana, as he called it. Brahmagupta and Varamihira use Gurutva. So this knowledge of the existence of gravity and the attraction of the earth resulting in gravity was there for many years before it was made more famous by Newton. So Brahmagupta did not need Newton's apple. He used his eyes and logic to discover gravity in 628, more than 1,000 years before Newton. So one of the things is that, why don't we, or why doesn't the world know more about these people, and they know only about the people like Newton talking about gravity? And there are a few reasons for it. And there is obviously colonization and the pushing of the narrative of the knowledge coming from the West. That is clearly a reason. It was pushed. The narrative was pushed by the colonial powers, by Britain in case of India. And there was also the printing press, and that was invented, so to say, in Europe, and that actually led to more transmission of their narrative. But I think it's time for us to actually acknowledge these other astronomers, other knowledge sources that existed, and bring them forward. So I'll briefly touch upon some of the other other people that existed, other astronomers that we talked about in that timeline. There is the Bhaskara, the two Bhaskaras, Bhaskara 1 and 2. There is also astronomer Lalla, who's and I brought it up because he was from the land of Kashmir, or that area, the northern part of India, and he existed in the 8th century. So there was a big um, time period between them, and I think as Madhu pointed out, we probably see more of a concentration of these knowledge sources towards the south of India, which are less affected by the Islamic invasions. So this was Bhaskara 1, and he wrote commentary on the Bharatiya, and he also wrote his own work, Mahabhaskarya. He includes the sign approximation that was actually propounded by Aryabhatta. I'm using this expression as from the modern point of view. Obviously, he expressed it in different verses. Lalla from the north of India, from Kashmir, actually talked about precession. Madhu talked about precession briefly in one of his lectures, but this is obviously the cycle of rotation of the Earth along its along an axis, the wobbly nature of the Earth, and that was actually refined to around 50 per year. I think the modern rate is very close to that. So he used many instruments to actually look at different aspects of astronomical observations. Bhaskara II wrote Siddhanta Shiromani, where again he talked about the precession. He talked about different aspects of the differential calculus. And again express one of his differential calculus in the modern format. He used mathematics to educate his daughter, Lilavati. And there is one story about the Lilavati. He used this time measuring wheel to actually measure time, but there is one story about how that actual wheel malfunctioned because during his daughter's wedding, one of the pearl actually fell into the measuring wheel, stopped the draining, and actually missed the mood. So that was just a brief introduction, because the more I read about them, the more I learn, the more wonderment, the mind-boggling facts about how developed Indian astronomy was, how ancient Indian astronomy was. Not only the antiquity, the advancement is very humbling to realize what they had done so many years, so many, even thousands of years ago. So I got a quick assignment for you all, and we will send this out. I will, but so it will give you an appreciation of the different contributions of the Indian civilization towards astronomy. So just refresh your memory, and send this, not only the slide deck, but also the assignment out separately. And of course, one of the points is that Newton is credited worldwide for this gravity concept. So can you actually think of? I noted a couple of reasons, but I'm sure there are many more. So please go ahead, and we would like to see what your responses are. These are the different references that exist that talk about all these different aspects. We have many primary texts which still exist. We can get them. There are some fragments which are covered by this article in the Indian Journal of History of Science. And there are some modern books, again by Sharma and Richard Thompson. We talked about Richard Thompson earlier. So I used a few of those in preparing the slides.
Ajay, I think we have a question.
Yes, I think I'm done. So yeah, sure. Go ahead.
There are periods where fewer astronomical works are recorded. What historical or political factors cause these gaps in timeline, and what might we have lost?
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, if you look at these are the so many astronomical works which are now supposed to be mostly lost. There have been different periods in the history of the subcontinent, where you had prolonged droughts, which might have led to the drying up of river Saraswati, for example, which might have forced some migration, which again some of the text might have been lost. And again, like I said, oral traditions and the actual recording on organic matter, palm leaves, which did not survive. So that might be one reason why the texts are lost. There is also things like invasions, burning up of Nalandas, those kind of things. So there clearly exist avenues and areas for further research, because there are some texts which are existing in some unlikely areas, which can be revived and so on. But yes, it is true that some of these are lost and probably lost forever.
Ajayji, on this slide, you listed this Parashara, Garga, Brahma, Surya,
Yes.
Vyasa. Are they
Yeah.
in the chronological order as they lived, or they are?
No. I think Bhrigu, for example, lived even Vyasa and Vasishtha. They were before Parashara. So
Yeah.
no, these are arbitrary listings. I think they're not in chronological order at all.
Yeah, and the other thing that you showed some slides on that Brahma Spudha Siddhanta.
Yes.
Right? So I mean, I'm just a suggestion, because these are all Sanskrit words. When you write in English, the pronunciation may be different. I don't know whether we can make it in Devanagari also. For example, it is not Brahma, it is Brahma, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And same Sputam is that the second Mahaprana.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah. Sure. That's a good suggestion. Yes, absolutely. No, there is there are issues with the transliteration. Yeah. Exactly.
And also, you mentioned the lineage of from Parashara, right? I mean,
Yes.
just for everybody, I'm just saying, in Vishnu Sahasranam, in the third shloka, is about the lineage of Vyasa. So he talks about Parasharatmajam Vande Shukathadam Tabonidim. So he talks about Parashara, Shukha, Shakti, Vasishta, Shakti, Parashara, Vyasa, and then Shuka, Vyasa's son Shuka.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Then
So, I don't know, some people, if you want to, you can, the Vishnu Sahasranamam gives the lineage. Exactly.
Correct.
Very good. Yeah.
And also, this Vasishta is this mother side, maternal grandfather.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Madhu, you had your hand raised?
No, so there's another question from Ram. How much of the original scriptures remain and are they accessible? Where did you get the copies from to prepare this material?
Okay, so I relied on many of many of the slides and many of the documentations shared by Raj Vedamji. And also some other internet searches that I did. I also used some AI tools for that. So yeah, there are some of these are available on the internet. One of the things about technology now is quite interesting because AI can actually help you come to those sources. So we are very fortunate from that. We can find quite a few sources based on this. But yeah, there are many of these verses that you can find on the internet.
Another thing, this Indian Astronomical Society under the Ministry of this, they have a store, an office or come store in New Delhi, in Karol Bagh, in Gurudwara Road.
Okay.
Many years ago, I'm talking 40 years ago, I've been there. So when I was in Delhi, so I believe still they have it. They have it there. They have a good collection of all these books. For example, this Brahma Sputa Siddhanta copies are there.
Okay, I see.
So just for anybody's information.
Sure.
Yeah. So one thing that I would like to add to Ajay on Ram's question is all the Siddhantas except the Surya Siddhanta have actually been lost, unfortunately, right? We just know the existence of these Siddhantas from the references that are present in other texts. For example, the Pancha Siddhantika talks about the existence of these 18 Siddhantas, right? So that's how unfortunately. I'm not sure what was the reason why they are not available, when they were lost, etc. But the Surya Siddhanta is the one that that really remains, and it is widely researched. Just wanted to add that. Right. Another interesting thing, hopefully, I just wanted to add is maybe this can even be your homework, I guess. Varaha Mihira, right? So Varaha literally means the boar, right? Now that's a very interesting story on why someone who was called as just Mihira got the name as Varaha Mihira, right? So it's a very interesting anecdote which talks about his kind of knowledge of astrology, which actually gave that name. So maybe you can take it as an offline exercise to find out why he got the Varaha Mihira. It's a very interesting story, very well worth the time. And if not, I can share some links which kind of talk to that. But I just wanted to mention that while we were talking about Varaha Mihira.
Adding to that, Madhu, Narayanim 12.9 sloka mentions about this Varaha avatar and all those various spheres, you mentioned the other day, Rasatal, Patal, Talatal, very detailed description in Narayanim, which is the short form of Bhagavatam.
Correct.
I was just reading
but,
it today.
Yeah, but that
Very
is the
detailed.
Varaha. But that is the Varaha avatar. What I'm talking about is why Mihira got the name Varaha Mihira. There's a nice story to it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, if you can find some time to read it, please do it. It's very, very interesting. It talks to
Sure.
the capabilities of Varaha Mihira as an astrologer.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a long story, so I don't want to kind of take time to go through that. So we can either discuss it in a future class or we can do it offline.
This lake you mentioned, no, Parashara Lake. When I was in Delhi, I've heard of this lake, but they in North they say it as Prashar Lake.
Yeah,
I did not know
exactly.
this is Parashara.
Yes.
They
And
always say
there's also-
Prashar, and I didn't know. I said, okay, whatever. I didn't realize.
There is
Now
also
they only realize, oh, this is actually Parashara Lake.
there's also a legend about the Pandavas creating this lake. So, Bhima actually creating this lake or something. So, but there are different legends about that lake. Okay, all right. Thank you everyone for attending. If there are no more questions, and Madhu will continue next.
Thank you, Ajay-ji, for excellent presentation. Very good compilation of information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah, very, very
Really,
No,
interesting.
how 1 hour
Thank you very
25.
much.
Thank you.
Today was pretty informative in terms of busting a lot of myths and kind of because, you would be able to be relate to this because kids growing up, they ask questions about things and
Yes.
typically the answer of, oh, it said in our verses is actually a bad thing to do without actually corroborating proof. And in some sense, in fact, this is really good. And in fact, most of my Sanskritam pursuits have been for primary. Initially, I started on this purpose. Then I myself got a lot of surprises. Said, okay, maybe it's a time worth investing to kind of go through with all of this stuff, right? So from that perspective, it's very good compilation. So I actually sent a note to Madhu's. If today's slides, if we can actually share, that would be really
absolutely
nice
I will do
because
that. Will do
I
that.
see that
No
you had
problem.
listed the chronological order and everything in a very nice way to be able to kind of present the information in a crisp manner. It will be really nice to have a copy. And I actually just gave a that I asked, so it might be good for you to kind of take a look at and see why I was asking for the original sources and stuff in the comments. Just in the interest of time, I just left it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the knowledge we have, our rishis and our, years and years ago, before all the Newtons and other people came along. And it's also very sad, a lot of them have been lost.
I know. True.
And interestingly, one thing I came to know, I used to go to Bihar often when I was working in Delhi. because there's a refinery in Bihar, and I was working in oil and gas. And there's a place called Barauni, which is near a place called Mokhama. You might have heard in the news because of the Bihar election, this came. The thing is, there is that Nalanda University was there, and there is a railway station called Bhaktiyarpur.
Bhaktiyarpur, yeah.
You know, if you see the history, Bakhtiyar Khilji was the guy who burned down Nalanda. Okay, and we still, after 75 plus years of independence, we still have a railway station in his name. The very person who burned all these things. It's very sad. That tells you how much we are lost. You know, how ignorant people are of our heritage.
Yes, exactly. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And I'll
Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Ajay.
folks.
Thank you, everybody. Purnarvala.